Give praise, glory, and honor to the Most High Yah by way of Yahushua HaMashiach. John chapter 5 and verse 39. Hey, party. And it says, search the scriptures, for in them you think you have eternal life, and they are they which testify of me. You will not come to me that you might have life. I receive not honor from men, but I know you that you have not the love of Elohim in you. So, we were talking about that thing with the inwards. Me and Troy were talking about that the other day. Let's look at Leviticus chapter 3 and about verse 10 about that. Matter of fact, we'll look at verse 1 and work our way around. We're going to read every verse in it. It says, if his oblation be a sacrifice of peace offering, if he offer it out of the herd, whether it be male or female, he shall offer it without blemish before Yahuwah. He shall lay his hand upon his head, the head of his offering, and kill it at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And Aaron's sons, the priests, shall sprinkle the blood upon the altar round about. And he shall offer the sacrifice of the peace offering. He shall offer the sacrifice of the peace offering, an offering made by fire unto Yahuwah, the fat that cover the inwards, and all the fat that is upon the inwards, and the 2 kidneys and the fat that is on them, which is by the flanks, and the caul above the liver, with the kidneys, it shall he take away. Aaron's son shall burn it upon the altar, upon the burnt sacrifice, which is upon the wood that is on the fire. It is an offering made by fire of a sweet savor unto Yahuwah. What you take from that when you hear that there? You see what he was telling you you had to be doing with the fat. He's not referring to, now they ate these sacrifices, but he's telling them for this particular peace offering, you got to do what? Take the kidneys out, take the liver out, offering by fire. Now we know when we mentioned in John chapter 19, in verse 34, they hit him in his side, and that's what he did that because, he is a peace offering. But the reason why we looking at this is hold this Leviticus chapter 3 and look at Malachi chapter 2. Two and about 5. Make it photo. It says, ye shall know that I have sent this commandment unto you, that my covenant might be with Levi, saith Yahuwah of hosts. My covenant was with him of life and peace, and I gave them to him for the fear wherewith he feared me, and was afraid before my name. So now we look at it and we see that the covenant that he made with Levi was of life and peace. When we look at Mashiach, you know what he came and said in the 10th chapter of John? He stated that I came that they might have life, and they might have it in more abundance. When we look at let's look at Ephesians chapter 2 and about verse 15. When we look at this statement of what the Apostle Paul is about to make, matter of fact, make it 11. It's referring to the peace that comes with the covenant of a Mashiach, a peace that surpasses all peace, whether Elohim or Shalom might rest with you, to give you rest in your days. Because remember, he said this sacrifice is for a peace offering. You sit back and you look for shalom or rest. So basically a Mashiach is an offering for rest. An offering to say, this is a peace offering that you would not wage war with me. You know what I'm saying? To satisfy or placate an individual. Now he states here, wherefore remember that ye being in time past Gentiles in the flesh, who are called uncircumcision by that which is called the circumcision in the flesh made by hands, that at that time ye were without a Mashiach, being aliens from the commonwealth of Yasharal, and strangers from the covenants of promise, having no hope without Elohim in the world. But now in Yahushua HaMashiach, ye who were sometimes were far off, are made nigh by the blood of a Mashiach. For he is our peace, who have made both one, and have broken down the middle wall of partition between us, having abolished in his flesh the enmity, even the law of commandment contained in ordinances, for to make in himself of twain one new man, so making peace, And by that he might reconcile both unto Elohim in one body by the stake, having slain the enmity thereby, and came and preached peace to you which were afar off, and to them that were nigh. For through him we both have access by one Ruach unto the Father. Now he's referring to merging the nations, because we know the prophecy is in Abraham, all the nations of the earth will be blessed. But we also see that this man's blood brings shalom, right? Now look in Hebrews chapter 9 real fast, because he said that it's a covenant of life and peace, and his blood brings in that peace. See, what we seeking for that rest, because I see a lot of people sometimes, man, they don't have no peace, they don't have no rest. They troubled regularly. They troubled regularly because they have no God. 9 and about verse 11. Matter of fact, let's go on and make it 10. He say, which stood only in meats and drinks and divers washings and carnal ordinances opposed on them until the time of Reformation. But Mashiach being come a high priest of good things to come by a greater and more perfect tabernacle, not made with hands, that is to say, not of this building, neither by the blood of goats and calves, but by his own blood, he entered in once into the Kadesh place, having obtained eternal redemption for us. For if the blood of bulls and goats and ashes of heifer sprinkling the unclean sanctified to the purifying of the flesh, how much more shall the blood of a Mashiach, who through the eternal Ruach offered himself without spot to Elohim, purge your conscience from dead works to serve the living Elohim? Well, as we already heard with that peace offering, what did it have to be? Without spot. So when we turn around and we look at if we're going to offer ourselves to the Most High, then we would need to be able to be without spot. Matter of fact, this something just come to my mind. Psalms chapter 4. We still hold Leviticus chapter 3. Psalms 4 and 3. Psalms 4 and 3. It says, but know that Yahuwah have set apart him that is godly for himself. Yahuwah will hear when I call unto him. What do you think this means when he say he set apart him that is godly for himself? He say, when I call, he'll hear me. What come to your mind when you hear something like that? Well, let's see, read verse 4 before we go any further then. Stand in awe and sin not. Commune with your own heart upon your bed and be still, say Selah. If he's telling you to be still, what that's really referring to? If he's saying be still, what is that referring to? Having peace. He's told you to stand in awe and sin not. Commune with your own heart upon your bed and be still. Listen to the next thing he tell you. Offer the sacrifices of righteousness and put your trust in Yahuwah. So what would that sacrifice of righteousness be? Kind of told you that in the same sentence. What would that sacrifice of righteousness be? If you're going to offer yourself a sacrifice of righteousness, you will offer yourself without spot. You know, he told you in the Hebrews 11 and 1 that faith is the thing that where the elders obtained a good report. You know what I'm saying? It calls them to be clean and righteous before Yah. Now he sit back and he tell you that Yah set apart him that is godly for himself. Let's look at John chapter 17, about verse 5. He's saying he'll hear me when I call. Matter of fact, look at John 10, 30 and 30 before we even look at 17. Because he said he set apart him that is godly for himself. That means we need to look at that first. He say, I and my Father are one. Then the Yahudim took up stones again to stone him. Yahusha answered them, many good works have I showed you from my Father. Which of these works do you stone me for? The Yahudim answered him, saying, for a good work we stone thee not, but for blasphemy, because thou, being a man, makest thyself Elohim. Yahusha answered, is it not written in your law, I said, ye are gods? If he called them gods unto whom the word of Elohim came, and the scripture cannot be broken. Say ye of him whom the Father hath sanctified and sent into the world, thou blaspheme, because I say I am the son of Elohim. Does this sound like that Yah set this man set apart to godly for himself? Hello? Hello? How you doing? Don't that sound like he set him that's godly apart for himself? So then it would make sense that he would hear him when we come over here to the 17th chapter of the same book. He say, now, O Father, esteem thou me with thy own self, with the esteem which I had with thee before the world was. I have manifested thy name unto the men which thou gave me out of the world. Thine they were, and thou gave them me, and they have kept thy word. Now they have known that all things whatsoever thou hast given me are of thee. For I have given unto them the words which thou gave me, and they have received them, and have known surely that I came out from thee, and they have believed that thou didst send me. So when we turn around and we look at the apostles, aren't they being set apart unto himself? He told them that whatever you do in my name, you ask in my name, I'll do it unto you. Why? Because they offered the sacrifices of righteousness. They put their trust in Yahuwah, because as it says right here, he said they believed that thou didst send me. I gave them thy word. They were yours. They were yours. You know what I'm saying? All of us have to sit back and realize and make one determinating factor in our mind is what offering of sacrifice will we be willing to use. Because he said this blood will bring a peace offering. Don't you desire peace? Don't we all? That's what we desire, to be able to rest regardless in the world. See, look at John chapter 16 and about verse 30. He say, now we are sure that thou know all things, and need not that any man should ask thee. By this we believe that thou come forth from Elohim. Yahusha answered them, do you now believe? Behold, the hour come, and yea, now is, that ye shall be scattered, every man to his own, and shall leave me alone. Yet I am not alone, because the Father is with me. These things have I spoken unto you, that in me you might have peace. In the world you shall have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I've overcome the world. Now, how do you sit back and look at, we could sit back and look at a couple people that had a little tribulation in the world, but in the end, Yah gave them peace. You know, we looked at Joseph last night when it came to this. You know, David is always someone we could look at. But you got anybody else in mind? What?
What you said, Joseph and David?
You know, we looked at Joseph last night, and we can always look about how David had trouble, but ended up having peace because Yah was with him. But do y'all know who we could look at to see in the same situation? I have somebody in mind. Y'all might not have him in mind, but who y'all got in mind? Y'all got anybody in mind? Any of you brothers on the phone got anybody in mind? Huh?
Jonah.
You got Jonah.
Yeah, he had trouble with it. He had peace to go with it.
Yeah, but his trouble was of his own doing, because he didn't want to go. And then he got swallowed up by that whale. I got somebody in mind, though. You got who you got in your mind?
You got Daniel.
You got Daniel. Daniel would be a good choice. You got anybody in your mind? You got somebody in your mind, Brian? Any of you brothers on the phone got anybody in your mind?
Samuel.
Well, let's look in the book of Esther real fast.
Mordecai. Mordecai. You look like your middle name. Brian Mordecai Samuel.
You're going to say Brian, middle name, Mordecai.
Mordecai.
Look in Esther chapter 3.
It's kind of right.
And let's look at about verse 1. It said, after these things did King Xerxes promote Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, and advanced him and set his seat above all the princes that were with him. And all the king's servants that were in the king's gate bowed and reverenced Haman, for the king had so commanded concerning him. But Mordecai bowed not, nor did him reverence. Then the king's servants which were in the king's gate said unto Mordecai, why transgressed thou the king's commandment? Now it came to pass, when they spake daily unto him, that he hearkened not unto them, that they told Haman to see whether Mordecai's matters would stand, for he had told them that he was a Yahudim. And when Haman saw that Mordecai bowed not, nor did him reverence, then Haman was full of wrath, and he thought scorn to lay hands on Mordecai alone, for they had showed him the people of Mordecai. Wherefore Haman sought to destroy all the Yahudim that were throughout the whole kingdom of Xerxes, even the people of Mordecai. Now, we've looked at this in a different fashion before, but now this man mad, he want to kill somebody. Now let's look at about verse 13, and let's look at what this man did. Matter of fact, make it 12. Then were the king's scribe called on the 13th day of the first month, and there was written according to all that Haman had commanded unto the king's lieutenants and to the governors that were over every province, and to the rulers of every people of every province according to the writing thereof, and to every people after their language. In the name of King Xerxes was it written, and sealed with the king's ring. And the letters were sent by post into all the king's provinces to destroy, to kill, and to cause to perish all Yahudim, both young and old, little children and women, in one day, even upon the 13th day of the 12th month, which is in the month of Adar, and to take the spoil of them for a prey. The copy of the writing for a commandment to be given in every province was published unto all people, that they should be ready against that day. The post went out, being hastened by the king's commandment, and the decree was given in Shushan, the palace, and the king and Haman sat down to drink, but the city Shushan was perplexed. These people is amazed. Now, he just gave an order to kill everybody. Do you know America has an order similar to that? You know that?
Martial law, right?
No, it's not just martial law. Martial law entails everybody. I'm talking about for one specific group of people. Do any of you brothers on the phone care to do y'all know what that is? You know what it is? It's called Rex 84. Or the King Alfred plan. Well, they say that they can pretty much, which is the same thing, that they can pretty much gather up all black people within 8 hours and exterminate us. You know what I'm saying? Now the difference is they ain't posted it on all the gates or all the cities of America that they had this plan to do this to us, but they seem in daily, everyday life to seem to execute that plan upon us. You know what I'm saying? Through the systematic slaying of your people on a regular basis. I know they just buried that boy down in Pahokee who the police just killed. Say he was waiting for some of the tow truck people to come get his car, and they shot him dead. You know what I'm saying? Not to mention, we done discussed before, all the things they do with the medicine. They got a different set of medicine for you than they do for Caucasians. You know, they say they got certain orders to pretty much let you die. You know what I'm saying? They ain't go to the extreme that Haman went to. But this is how they operate, this is how they live, and this is how they move. So when we look at the first verse of the 4th chapter, when Mordecai perceived all that was done, Mordecai rent his clothes and put sackcloth with ashes, and went out in the midst of the city and cried with a loud bitter cry, and came even before the king's gate, for none might enter into the king's gate clothed with sackcloth. And in every province wheresoever the king's commandment and his decree came, there was a great mourning among the Yahudim, and fasting, and weeping, and wailing, and many lay in sackcloth and ashes. So Esther's maid and her chamberlains came and told it to her. Then was she exceedingly grieved, and she sent raiment to clothe Mordecai, to take away his sackcloth from him, but he received it not. Now what that sound like to y'all? That she come to give him something to take for his mourning, but he wouldn't take it. What is something they tried to offer to a Mashiach that he wouldn't take? The sour wine. Because you know what they say, you know what the books say that wine's supposed to do, right? Make a man heart merry. She tried to give him a change of clothes to take him from his sadness to make him happy, yet he wouldn't take it. The reason why he couldn't rest because his people were troubled. You know what I'm talking about? See, he was having tribulation in the world, not realizing that he's about to overcome the world. Because in the world you'll have trouble, but in me you'll have peace. Let's see what Mordecai then begin to do after this. Let's drop down about verse 13. He said that Mordecai commanded to answer Esther, think not with thyself that thou shalt escape in the king's house more than all the Yahudim. For if thou altogether hold thy peace at this time, then there shall enlargement and deliverance arrive to the Yahudim from another place. But thou and thy father's house shall be destroyed. And who know whether thou art come into a kingdom for such a time as this? Then Esther bade them return Mordecai this answer. Go gather together all the Yahudim that are present in Sushan, and fast ye for me. Neither eat nor drink 3 days, night or day. I also and my maidens will fast likewise. So will I go in unto the king, which is not according to the law, and if I perish, I perish. Now sit back and look at, what does she tell him to go do? She told him to go fast for 3 days and 3 nights. Now, when the Mashiach was in the grave for 3 days and 3 nights, you know what this ends up bringing to pass, right? What does that bring to pass? That brings past a covenant of life and peace. That's what his covenant was made for. Remember, the covenant is of no effect without the death of a testator. Without the death of a testator, a covenant is of no effect. The whole purpose of a Mashiach dying was to give us shalom. That's the whole purpose of the war. You know, we kind of talked about that last night to a certain extent with Joseph. Everything he went through was to give us peace in a time of trouble, because there was a famine going on. So this was tribulation. Then in that tribulation, they come across Joseph, and in Joseph, they ended up having rest. You understand what I'm saying? When we turn around and we know that Joseph means Elohim have taken away my reproach, according to the 30th chapter of Genesis, as far as what it expounds on, then we begin to think about something. We begin to think about the rest that's able to be made from the sacrifice that was made by Mashiach. Because remember, they hit him in his side. That pulls his inward parts out. That takes away the kidney and the fat, right? He's an offering for peace. See, come on over here to, I think Romans 3 might finish it. I might be 2 Corinthians 5, but we'll look at something else. Look at 2 Corinthians 5 and 19 for the moment. And then we'll come around here to 1 Thessalonians chapter 5. And about verse 8, when we get finished with that. When we read 2 Corinthians 5 and about 19, we'll also probably look at Romans 16. So we'll see how that rolls. It says, to wit, Elohim was in a Mashiach, reconciling the world unto himself, not imputing their trespasses unto them, and hath committed unto us the word of reconciliation. Now then we are the ambassadors of a Mashiach, as though Elohim did beseech you by us. We pray you in a Mashiach's stead, be ye reconciled to Elohim. Remember now, he said that offering was for what? A sweet smelling savor. We know Paul wrote in Ephesians about how Mashiach offered himself for a sweet smelling savor unto the Father. How was he able to do that? Because this is a sacrifice of righteousness, a peace offering made without spot. That sacrifice of righteousness being faith, the confidence and trust in them. You see what Esther say, if I perish, I perish. You know what I'm saying? Let this cup pass from me, but if not, let thy will be done. Because if I have to die, I have to die. Well, we have to turn around and look at, if we're going to offer ourselves as a living sacrifice, then we would need to know that we offering ourselves as a peace offering, and we need to be offered without spot. You know what Isaiah 57 say? Yeah, you know what Isaiah 57 say? He say the wicked are tossed about like mire, because there is no peace, saith my God, to the wicked. Now, we were talking about a little earlier about, men saying, okay, you don't got to keep the law. You can be lawless. You can be that. Well, there's no way in the world you can have peace with Yah in that state. You know what I'm saying? See, I'm going to show you an example of why we can't have no peace in that state. In Hebrew, go to Hebrew 10 and about 30, though, before I look at this 1 Thessalonians 5 and 8. In Hebrews 10 and 30, earlier before that, in verses before that, he talked about how there's just a fearful look of wrath and indignation against those who despise Moses' law, and therefore those who trodden under the foot the blood of the Son of Elohim, which we were sanctified by. He says, for we know that with him that hath said, vengeance belong unto me, I will recompense, saith Yahuwah. And again, Yahuwah shall judge his people. It is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living Elohim. But call to remembrance the former days in which after ye were illuminated, you endured a great fight of affliction, partly which you were made a gazing stock, both by reproaches and afflictions, partly which you become companions of them that were so used. So now we need to go back to Mordecai again. Before we go back to Mordecai, what do y'all take from that when you hear that? He said, we know he'll repay for your disobedience. And then he begins to say something to you. Call to remembrance the former days. What are those former days? Is he referring to the former days in the word, or is he calling you remembrance the former days of which you went through? What you say?
I don't know. Good question.
He said, listen to him now, but call, listen to verse 31 again. It's a fearful thing to fall in the hands of the living Elohim. But call to remembrance the former days in which after you were illuminated, you endured a great fight of afflictions, partly which while you were made a gazing stock, both by reproaches and afflictions, and partly while you became companions of them that were so used. Yeah, I mean, in actuality, you can sit back and look at it as he's referring to those that had that happen that came before you, for you to remember what happened to you before that, and for you not to lose focus. Now you become a companion of them that suffered. When we look at Mordecai, Mordecai refused to bow down to a sinner. This is what he refused to do. And then afflictions became a part of this. Now we know, as we talked about the other day, you're supposed to take up your stake, your cross, your affliction of a Mashiach with you and become a partaker of those sufferings. Now when we turn around and look at, matter of fact, look at 1 Peter chapter 5, I believe, before we proceed and go back and look at Mordecai. First Peter chapter 5 and about verse 6. He say, humble yourselves therefore under the mighty hand of Elohim, that he may exalt you in due time. When you turn around and look at it, then we just read about Mordecai putting on sackcloth and ashes. So he was humbling himself before y'all, right? And we're going to turn around and see him being exalted in due time. And then we'll look at other people who suffered for the word's sake. And that we have to remember after we endured this great, he said also being of reproaches. Hold on, I don't want to misquote it, man. Reproaches and afflictions, a gazing stock. You know what it is, a gazing stock? I mean, people looking at you and they talking trash about you and you suffering. And he said, you got to understand that you could become a companion of those who took that on. He said, casting all your care upon him, for he cared for you. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walk about, seeking whom he may devour. Whom resist steadfast in the faith, knowing that the same afflictions are accomplished in your brethren that are in the world. But the Elohim of all grace, who have called us unto his eternal esteem by Yahushua HaMashiach, after that ye have suffered a while, make you perfect, establish, strengthen, and settle you. So let's go back to Mordecai. Let's go back and look at Esther chapter 5. Let's look at verse 9. It says, then went forth Haman that day, joyful and with a glad heart. But when Haman saw Mordecai in the king's gate, he stood not up, nor moved from him. For him, he was full of indignation against Mordecai. Nevertheless, Haman refrained himself, and when he came home, he sent and called his friends and Zeresh his wife. Hello? And Haman told them of the glory of his riches and the multitude of his children and all the things wherein the king had promoted him. And now he had advanced him above the princes and servants of the king. Haman said, moreover, yea, Esther did let no man come in with the king unto the banquet that she prepared but myself. And tomorrow I am invited unto her also with the king. Yet all this availed me nothing, so long as I see Mordecai the Yahudim sitting at the king's gate. Now he about to promote Haman. At least that's what Haman thinks. And you notice that every time he see Haman see Mordecai, what does he end up doing, right? He reproaching him, man. He's holding him as a dishonor. He talking like, I hate this dude. My whole objective is to kill this man. He troubling this man repeatedly. Let's look in the 6th chapter, the same thing. Excuse me. Let's look at 6 and 6. Well, look at 6 and 4. He said, the king said, who is in this court? Now Haman was coming to the outward court of the king's house to speak unto the king to hang Mordecai on the gallows that he had prepared for him. And the king's servant said unto him, behold, Haman stand in the court. And the king said, let him come in. So Haman came in, and the king said unto him, what shall be done unto the man whom the king delight to honor? Now Haman thought in his heart, to whom would the king delight to honor more than to myself? Haman answered the king, for the man whom the king delight to honor, let the royal apparel be brought which the king used to wear, and the horse that the king ride upon, and the crown royal which is set upon his head, and let his apparel and the horse be delivered into the hand of one of the king's most noble princes, that they may array the man withal who the king delight to honor, and bring him on horseback through the streets of the city, and proclaim before him, thus shall it be done to the man who the king delight to honor. Now I know y'all know what story this is. We done looked at this in the past. Y'all know what story it is. What story that is, boy? Get some royal apparel and a horse, set him on it, had him walk through the city.
That's that what they call Palm Sunday.
Yeah, that's that thing the Christians call Palm Sunday. It's when the Mashiach is put on that mule going through Jerusalem, right? You know what I'm talking about? That's what that is. So let's look at verse 10. Then said the king to Haman, make haste and take their apparel and the horse, and as thou hast said to do even, so too to Mordecai the Yahudim that sit at the king's gate. Let nothing fail of thou that thou hast spoken. You know what ended up happening to Haman? He got killed. You know what I'm saying? But you do notice that Mordecai was a reproach to Haman, didn't he? Matter of fact, he reproached all the Yahudim. He wanted to kill all the Yahudim. But because he was a partaker of that, once you illuminated to the word and you begin to see that and you remember the former days, now you might end up becoming a companion of those who suffer such things. Because Mordecai was the king, the man who the king delighted to honor. Just like a Mashiach was the man who the king delighted to honor. And therefore he had to suffer for that said cause. You might have to be a companion of that. We just looked at that last night, right? Now, he hated Mordecai for no reason other than Mordecai wouldn't bow to him, right? But he really hated him for no reason. We looked at that last night. They hated Joseph for no reason whatsoever. He ended up being a reproach, right? You know what I'm saying? Shall we even bow to him and all the stuff they said to him? He became a gazing stock too, right? Now we looked at Daniel. Let's look at Daniel and sit back and see about him having affliction in the world, but in the Most High having peace in the 6th chapter of that same book of Daniel. You can even see that with Jeremiah when he was locked up and they said they were going to kill him. And he said, man, if you kill me, truly you have innocent blood on your hand. Because in the world he had trouble, but in Yah he had peace. Then we end up becoming companions with those who suffered in like fashion. We can even see that with the Apostle Shaul, with the Apostle Paul. Daniel 6 and about verse 13. He said, then answered they, and they said before the king that Daniel, which is of the children of the captivity of Yehuda, regard thee not, O king, nor the decree that thou sign, but make this petition 3 times a day. Then the king, when he heard these words, was so displeased with himself, he set his heart on Daniel to deliver him, and he labored to the going down of the sun to deliver him. What do you think this could mean about he set his heart to deliver him? See, come over here, hold this right here, and look at Acts chapter 2, about verse 25. He set his heart to deliver him. Acts chapter 2, verse 23. He said, him being delivered by the determinate counsel and foreknowledge of Elohim, you have taken by wicked hands and crucified and slain, who Elohim have raised up, having loosed the pains of death, because it was not possible that he should be holden of it. Now he ended up around here, he ended up saving Daniel from a lion's den, because it said the king set his heart to save Daniel. Daniel had done no wrong. You had wicked men conspiring on Daniel and saying the only way we can get at him is through the law of his God. So because they say he was faultless, he was blameless, he was without blemish, he had done nothing wrong. So these people hated Daniel for no reason whatsoever. When you look in John 15 and the Mashiach say, as it's written in the law, they have hated me without a cause. You know what I'm saying? You see Daniel as an example of that. They hated Daniel for no reason. No reason. Now, why would you think we could sit back and look at that about the king setting his heart to deliver him? Because the Father had already set his heart on delivering the Son. Because the covenant that I made with him is for life and peace. You know what I'm saying? So when we turn back around, let's look at Romans 16 real fast.
Come on.
(16 and 19). It says, for your obedience is come abroad unto all men. I am glad therefore in your behalf, but yet I would have you wise unto that which is good, and simple concerning evil. And the Elohim of peace shall bruise Satan under your feet shortly. The grace of our Master Yahushua HaMashiach be with you. Amen. Now you sit back and look at it, right? Don't you realize that after what Mordecai did, right? His obedience went abroad because Mordecai was declared to be ruler over all the province. You know, they put a blue robe on, put a crown on. His obedience reached unto all men, and Satan was crushed under his feet, for in this instance Haman, who sought to kill him. When we look at Daniel, all those men who conspired on him to put him in the lion's den. You know what I'm talking about? Once they got put in that den and Yah delivered him from that den and shut the mouths of those lions, you know what I'm talking about? Those men ended up being tossed in there and killed. So he ended up putting these people upon his feet while his obedience came unto all men. All men had already knew Daniel was faultless. After he had done this here, you don't think that fame had spread abroad? You know what I'm talking about? But see, you know the reason why? Because they were wise to that which was good, and to that which was evil they were simple. See, Daniel was wise when he looked at the law say to pray towards Jerusalem 3 times a day, morning, evening, and noon. I shall cry aloud, and you shall hear my voice. This is the offering of the sacrifices of righteousness, because these men put their trust in Yahuwah. The same way that a Mashiach did, and the same way that we need to look at that. And no matter what situation and circumstance that we may deal with, that we offer that sacrifice of righteousness. And that sacrifice of righteousness would be a sweet smelling savor. Just like he said, to take that fat and to burn it upon the altar for a burnt offering for a sweet smelling savor. You know what I'm talking about? See, you know what that sweet smelling savor is? It's a fresh aroma. It's a nice aroma. You like to take it in. It's not a stench. It smells good. The sacrifices of righteousness and the sacrifices of faith and obedience is a delightful smell in the nose of the Most High. When he takes that in, he is delighted with it. We need to turn around and look at all our works, all our actions, is our lifestyle, is our faith. Is he delighted with it? Are we making a peace offering to him by being reconciled back to a Mashiach, as Paul stated in 2 Corinthians chapter 5, that we might have peace with him? As we already looked in Ephesians chapter 2, he has reconciled us by his stake, or by his affliction, by his suffering. So we go back and we look at those former days, seeing that we're becoming companions with those who suffered in like fashion. See, this is the thing that don't anybody want to do. They don't want to suffer in like fashion. You turn around and you look at it, right? Look at Romans chapter 9 real fast. 9 and 1. We still hold Leviticus chapter 3. No. It says, I say the truth in the Mashiach, my conscience also bearing with me witness in the Ruach HaKodesh, that I have great heaviness and continual sorrow in my heart. For I wish that myself were accursed from a Mashiach for my brethren, my kinsmen, according to the flesh, who are Yasharal, to whom pertain the adoption and the glory and the covenants and the giving of the law and the service of Elohim and the promises. Now, Paul's saying he wish he could be accursed, right? You know what that means, to be accursed, right? He basically saying he want to be separated. Now, we know from Isaiah 59 and 1, let's look at Isaiah 59 and 1 for that same cause, and just follow what I'm talking about. It says, behold, Yahuwah's hand is not shortened that it cannot save, nor is ear heavy that it cannot hear. But your iniquities have separated between you and your Elohim, and your sins have hid his face from you, that he will not hear. So it is sin that will remove us from having peace or have you accursed from Yah. Remember what the law say in Deuteronomy. Cursed be he that hangeth from a tree. Hamashiach took away the curse by becoming a curse for us. He redeemed us from the curse of the law. So in actuality, that means Hamashiach had to become accursed for our sake. When they put him up there on the stake, he became accursed. So when you see Paul making this statement, do you know, okay, obviously Moses went up and did it. You know Moses went and did it, right? You know Moses asked to be made a curse, right? Where Moses went and did that at? When they made that golden calf, he told them the people have made a great sin. He say, blot me out thy book of life. But you know who was the first person who made himself a curse for his kinsmen according to the flesh? It was somebody before Moses did it. Any of you brothers on this phone know who did that? You know who did that? You know who did that?
No.
It was Adam. Look at Genesis chapter 2, verse 15.
Genesis
2 and 15.
My hamstring's so tight.
He says, and Yahuwah Elohim took the man and put him in the garden of Eden to dress it and to keep it. And Yahuwah Elohim commanded the man, saying, every tree of the garden thou may freely eat, but the tree of the knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it, for the day that thou eat thou shalt surely die. Now let's turn around and look at the thing he said for his kinsmen according to the flesh. Let's look at about verse 21 then, same chapter. Yahuwah Elohim caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept, and he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh instead thereof. And the rib which Yahuwah Elohim had taken from man made he a woman, and brought her unto the man. And Adam said, this is now bone of my bones, flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. Call dropped on me. Call dropped on me. Now it says she was taken out of man, right? We drop down and we look at about verse 19 of this Genesis chapter 3. My page all tore up. Well, 17. He says, and unto Adam he said, because thou hearkened unto the voice of thy wife, and hast eaten of the tree which I commanded thee, saying, thou shalt not eat of it. Cursed is the ground for thy sake, and sorrow thou shalt eat of it all the days of thy life. Thorns and thistles shall it bring forth to thee, and thou shalt eat the herb of the field. And the sweat of thy face thou shalt eat bread till thou return unto the ground, for out of it thou was taken, for dust thou art, and dust thou shalt return. So you turn around and you look at it, wasn't he cursed for his kinsmen according to the flesh? Therefore, there was not any, at that point forward, there was no longer any peace, because the covenant had not been kept. I gave you something to do, you didn't keep it. So when we look at 1 Corinthians chapter 15, and we looking at about verse 45. Matter of fact, let's look at verse 12. He states, now if a Mashiach be preached that he rose from the dead, how say some among you that there is no resurrection of the dead? But if there be no resurrection of the dead, then a Mashiach is not risen. And if a Mashiach be not risen, then is our preaching vain, and your faith also is vain. And yea, we are found false witnesses of Elohim, because we have testified of Elohim that he raised up a Mashiach, whom he raised not up, if so be that the dead rise not. For if the dead rise not, then is not a Mashiach raised. And if a Mashiach be not raised, your faith is vain, and ye are yet in your sins. And if we are yet in our sins, then we are yet separated from Elohim. And if we yet separated from Elohim, we have no peace. Because he said, you'll do this by the sweat of your brow, thorns and thistles. You'll have trouble. You know what I'm saying? You'll have no peace. You'll have no rest. We're seeking to go from not having peace and not having rest to having a resting place. See, look at Hebrews chapter 4. Verse 7. He said again, he limited a certain day, saying, in David, today after so long time, as it is said, today if you will hear his voice, harden not your hearts. For if Yahusha had given them rest, he would not afterward have spoken of another day. There remained therefore a rest to the people of Elohim. For he that is entered into rest, he has also ceased from his own works, as Elohim did from his. Let us labor therefore to enter into that rest, lest any man should fall after that same example of unbelief. Well, the whole purpose of that sacrifice is to be a peace offering, right? That peace offering was to be able to, that we could have rest, to be able to come back to Elohim. If you sit back and look at it, we talked about earlier in the week, that's pretty much what that lamb in Exodus chapter 12 was about. That was a peace offering. That was an offering without blemish to be able to give us freedom from bondage, that we might have rest. We turn around and see Hamashiach, a similitude, a foreshadowing. Like I say, Hamashiach is a high priest of better things to come. A better peace offering and a better sacrifice, that we might be able to stand before Yahuwah in peace. This is what we have to seek after. All the things that we look at in this life, somebody, it can take away peace. See, look at 2 Corinthians 7 and 9. See, we also going to see the same thing with godly sorrow, because when these people heard that good grief, Leah, put him down. What was you thinking about? 7 and 9. He said, now rejoice now that you were made sorry, but that you sorrow to repentance. For you were made sorry after a godly manner, that you might receive damage by us and nothing. For godly sorrow worked repentance to salvation, and not to be repented of. But the sorrow of the world worked death. For behold, this self-same thing that you sorrowed after a godly sort, what carefulness it wrought in you, yea, what clearing of yourself, yea, what indignation, yea, what fear, what vehement desire, what zeal, what revenge. In all things you have approved yourselves to be clear on this matter. Wherefore, though I wrote unto you, I did it not for his cause that he done the wrong, nor for his cause that suffer wrong, but that our care for you in the sight of Elohim might appear unto you. Therefore we are comforted in your comfort, yea, and exceedingly the more joyed we are for the joy of Titus, because his spirit was refreshed by you all. Do you notice the key thing that he said? Now, you remember we talked about godly sorrow. You know, you've seen David show that. Even when you sit back and you look at Haman hadn't done anything. But when they seen this proclamation of all the Yahudim and the prophets of King Xerxes being killed, he humbled himself after a godly manner. He had godly sorrow. They began to fast. They began to put on sackcloth and ashes. You understand what I'm saying? They began to mourn. And because beginning of that mourning and the beginning of all of these things, he sit back and he looked at this work as salvation salvation not to be repented of, because y'all ended up working a work to save these people from their enemies, and their enemies ended up dying instead. You understand what I'm telling you? These people ended up having peace. See, hold this here and come to Esther chapter 12. See what I'm talking about. It's about Esther chapter 9. 9 and 18 or 17. He say, on the 13th day on the month of Adar, and on the 14th day of the same rested day, and made it a day of feasting and gladness. But the Yahudim that were at Sushan assembled together on the 13th day thereof, and on the 14th day thereof, and on the 15th day of the same they rested, and made it a day of feasting and gladness. Therefore the Yahudim of the villages that dwelt in unwalled towns made the 14th day of the month of Adar a day of gladness and feasting, a good day of sending portions one to another. And Mordecai wrote these things and sent letters unto all the Yahudim that were in the province of King Xerxes, both nigh and far, to establish this among them, that they should keep the 14th day of the month of Adar and the 15th day of the same yearly, as the days wherein the Yahudim rested from their enemies, and the month which turned unto them from sorrow to joy, and from mourning into a good day, that they should make them days of feasting and joy, sending portions one to another and gifts to the poor. Well, now we turn around and we look at something. Because these people, they ended up getting salvation because of the godly sorrow that they had. Fasting. They afflicted themselves before Yah that their voice might be heard on high. They fasted. They wept. You know what I'm saying? They humbled themselves before him by putting on sackcloth and ashes. You know what I'm saying? Because we know Elohim give grace unto the humble and he resists the proud. These people humbled themselves when they heard a dire report. And from hearing this report and the godly sorrow that they had, salvation was worked on their behalf. Because you notice what it said, they had rest. They had gladness. A day of sorrow was turned into joy, which is why he was telling you to look upon those who will suffer, who you become companions with. And you turn around and you look at it, it says how the king set his heart to deliver Daniel, and how Xerxes set his heart to uplift Mordecai. And as the Father set his heart to uplift Yahusha, the same way that if we walk in this same framework of living, he will set his heart to deliver us from all troubles. That's why he said, in the world you will have tribulation, but in me you will have peace. You know what I'm trying to say? What I'm telling you? See, we read it the other day. Acts 14:22 says that he exhorted the disciples to continue in the faith, because through much tribulation we must inherit the kingdom of Shamahim. So through much suffering and much trouble, these things will come, but these things will be worth it, because you'll have the peace that surpasses all knowledge, which is of Yah. She can take it, she all right. Now when we look in verse 11 of 2 Corinthians chapter 7, what we just read, he said, this self-same thing that you sorrowed after a godly sort, he say, what carefulness it wrought in you. What clearing of yourselves, yea, what indignation, what fear, what vehement desire, what zeal, what revenge, and all these things you approve yourselves to be clear in this matter. You just heard that in Esther, didn't you? Didn't we just hear that in Esther? Then they said the self-same thing that they sorrowed after in the godly sword. He said, what clearing of yourself? The indignation. You know what I'm talking about? The fear, because these people were fearful that they were going to be killed, right? He said, what vehement desire, what zeal, what revenge. We didn't read this part. We ended up taking out revenge on all the people who sought to kill us right there in the 8th chapter, that same verse. Let's look in that 8th chapter, that verse where you can see that. Then after that, Revelation 1 and 7. Matter of fact, yeah, Revelation 1 and 7. We look at Esther chapter 8 real fast. Make sure that's what I want. Matter of fact, that's Esther 9, verse 3, or verse 2. It says, the Yahudim gathered themselves together in their cities throughout all the provinces of King Xerxes to lay hand on such as sought their hurt. No man could withstand them, for the fear of them fell upon all people. And the rulers and the provinces and the lieutenants and all the deputies and the officers of the king helped the Yahudim, because the fear of Mordecai fell upon them. For Mordecai was great in the king's house, and his fame went throughout all the provinces, for this man Mordecai waxed greater and greater. Thus the Yahudim smote all their enemies with the stroke of the sword, and slaughter and destruction, and did what they would unto those that hated them. In Shushan, the palace of the Yahudim, and in Shushan, the palace of the Yahudim, slew and destroyed 500 men. And Parshandatha, and Dalphon, and Asphatha, and Poratha, and Adiah, and Aradatha, and Parmashta, and Arasi, and Ardiah, and Vejezda, the 10 sons of Hammon, the son of Hammedatha, the enemy of the Yahudim, slew they, but on the spoil laid not their hand. What revenge? What vehement desire? What zeal? Do you realize for all the y'all who deem to sit back and fast, all that there, that's got to be a zeal and a passion for y'all for them to do it? Because all of them did it. What vehement desire did they have towards y'all to be able to do it? In the face of, there's an order being saying that all of us should be slaughtered. He's saying, what carefulness did this godly sorrow work for you, that in all things you were clear? In the end, Mordecai ended up becoming clear in all that he did. That's why he said, hold on, Romans chapter 13. Romans chapter 13. Matter of fact, make it Romans 12 and about 13 or 14. He say, bless them which persecute you, bless and curse not. Rejoice with them that do rejoice, and weep with them that weep. Be of the same mind one towards another, mind not high things, but be condescended to men of low estate. Be not wise in your own conceits. Do you realize, you sit back and you look at that when Mordecai went to weeping with everything that was going on, they weep with him. You know what I'm talking about? Do you realize when Mordecai was vindicated, he rejoiced, the people rejoiced with him. You know what I'm talking about? Then he said to be of the same mind one towards another, mind not high things, but be men condescended to low estate. When you turn around and you look at, even with Daniel in the position what he was in, he still remained humble. Even the position of Mashiach was in, he still remained humble. Even the position that Mordecai was in, he still remained humble. They didn't get deceived by their own deceits being high-minded. You know, sometimes being high-minded can get us all messed up in the game, get you in the wrong spot, get you in a place that you don't need to be in. So that's why he say, look back to these former days. Because what we're looking at, he say, vengeance belongeth unto Yah, he will repay. You know what I'm saying? When you turn around and you look at it, these people sat back and they understood that and they knew that. That's why he said they were clear in all things, because they didn't seek vengeance for themselves. Even like I say, we could look at David in the same format and fashion. What vehement desire did he have for Yah? What godly sorrow did he show? You know what I'm talking about? And the vengeance that ended up being worked on his behalf. Because of his godly sorrow, which was not to be repented of, it worked salvation. It delivered him from these situations. Therefore, he was able to have that peace that he was desiring. He says the peace of Elohim, the Apostle Paul said the peace of Elohim surpasses all understanding. You know what I'm saying? You know, a lot of people, they walk around and they search for that and they desire for that, and they never attain to it and reach to it because of one reason and one reason alone. They're never willing to offer the sacrifices of righteousness and put their trust in Yahuwah. He said to stand in awe and sin not and commune upon your own bed with your own heart. Meaning, sit back and think in your own mind. You know, stand in awe means to be standing also. It's like this is, you know what I'm saying? Now look at Revelation 1 and 7. Because he also said, what vengeance, right? What revenge, right? Now these men turn around and Mordecai gets revenge back on the men that killed him. Tried to kill him. You got to know what Mashiach gonna get the revenge back on those who killed him. You got to know that. You've got to understand that. You've got to believe that. He said, behold, he cometh with clouds, and every eye shall see him. They also which pierced him, and all the kindreds of the earth shall wail because of him. Even so, I am the Alpha and the Tav, or the Aleph and the Tav, the beginning and the end, saith the Master, which is and which was and which is to come, the Almighty. He basically lets you know that he was Shaddai, El Shaddai. That's what he was telling you. You know, he said that to Abraham, right? Y'all know that, right? Look at Genesis 17 and 1, where he told Abraham that. And look what he told Abraham that when he told him that. Genesis 17 and 1. He said, when Abram was 90 years old and 9, Yahuwah appeared to Abraham and said unto him, I am El Shaddai, or Al Shaddai. Walk before me and be thou perfect, and I will make my covenant between me and thee and will multiply thee exceedingly. Now we mentioned about this sorrow, right, and the vengeance he would have. Well, we know Mashiach say he was exceedingly sorrowful, even unto death, right, showing that godly sorrow. What vehement desire and what zeal did he have? Because we know it said the zeal of thy house has eaten me up. The reproaches of them that reproach thee fell on me, because he ended up becoming a gazing stock. He say, oh fools and slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have spoken. Have not a Mashiach ought to suffer to enter into his esteem? See, look at 1 Peter chapter 1, where Peter goes to tell you about these sufferings. See, these sufferings going to work peace. Remember, Hebrews 5 tells us about he learned obedience from the things that he suffered. You know, sometimes reason why you have to go through these afflictions and go through these sufferings, it's to root out any negative thing, any pride, any stubbornness, any rebelliousness, anything that is contrary to the spirit of Yah. It has to be worked up out of you. The only way it can get up out of you is through sufferings and afflictions. You know what I'm saying? This doesn't necessarily mean about, you know what I'm talking about, whatever you might sit back and you think things is, but you're going to have to be humble. That's the purpose of it. That's why he said he learned obedience from the things that he suffered. He was humbled by that. Remember, we talked about that in Deuteronomy chapter 8. I suffered thee to hunger, and I humbled thee to make a man know that a man don't live off bread alone, but every word that proceed out the mouth of Yah doth man live. So then when we turn around and we look at this, that's bringing us under the rod. When you brought up under the rod, you brought up under subjection. You brought up under correction. That's why he say he spared not his own son, but delivered him up for us all. Because he was this peace offering to redeem us, to reconcile us back. Now we got to turn around and look at that covenant, make that covenant with him by sacrifice, by becoming that same peace offering. Because he say it's your reasonable service to offer yourself as a living sacrifice. A living peace offering. You offering the sacrifices of righteousness is a peace offering to Yahuwah, which he will receive with a sweet smelling savor. We'll look in 2 Corinthians chapter 2 to back that up. But let me, what that was I just mentioned. 1 Peter chapter 1 verse 11, I believe. 1 Peter chapter 1 and about verse 8. Matter of fact, verse 7. Y'all understand what I'm saying? In order to be able to get peace with y'all, you're going to have to offer peace to him. What's the best way to turn, and we still got to get 1 Thessalonians 5 and 8. What's the way to turn away the wrath of y'all to have peace with y'all? By walking before him in spirit and in truth. When you walk before him in spirit and truth, and you become that peace offering without blemish, and that sweet smelling savor, and then we know that a Mashiach is that same peace offering, which he made a covenant with him of life and peace, that we might have life and have it in more abundance. He was willing to offer himself for that cause. You know what I'm saying? Now we have to turn around knowing that we ought to live for him who died for us and no longer live for ourselves, meaning we have to offer ourselves up in that same fashion. Then we can turn around and we can see what Mordecai experienced about looking at the former days and him being a gazing stock and a reproach and the afflictions that he suffered. Not only him, but Daniel. Not only Daniel, but Joseph. And then we turn around and look at how Paul say he wished he could be accursed from a Mashiach for his kinsman's sake. And we turn around and we see Adam being accursed from his wife, who was his kinsman according to the flesh. Because he said, you flesh of my flesh, bone of my bones. He said, I would seek to be accursed for my people, my kinsmen according to the flesh. Yeah. Even though Eve is his wife, she still is kinsman according to the flesh because she came out of him. Flesh of my flesh, bone of my bones. We turn around and we see a Mashiach seeking to do the same thing, knowing he was made a curse, being a curse from us in order that we might be able to live. 1 Peter 1:7, that the trial of your faith being much precious than gold, that perish, though it be tried with fire, might be found in the praise and honor at the esteem and appearing of Yahushua HaMashiach, whom having not seen ye love, and whom though you see him not, yet believing you rejoice with joy unspeakable and full of esteem, receiving the end of your faith, even the salvation of your soul. When you sit back and you look at Mordecai, his faith was tried. You know what I'm saying? When you sit back and look at this, or what he was experiencing. But at the end of his faith in the Most High, what did he end up getting? The saving of his soul. And not only him, but the whole kingdom of the Yahudim in that province where he was. It also referred to, didn't it also mention other provinces that were far away? So he sit back and he say, you reconcile, like we read in Ephesians 2, he reconciled those to him to give peace to those that were near and them that were far. Because we already read it said in that one place that in one province they kept Purim on the 13th and the 14th. And in another place, it said they kept it on the 14th and the 15th. You see what I'm talking about? It's he say receiving the end of your faith. Even the salvation of your souls.
Hey, hush it up. Hush it up.
Of which salvation the prophets have inquired and searched diligently, who prophesied of that grace that should come unto you. Searching what or what manner of time the spirit of a Mashiach which was in them did signify, when it testified beforehand the sufferings of a Mashiach and the esteem that should follow. When we turn around and we look at it, right? The scribes and the Pharisees was pretty much mad at a Mashiach because he pretty much wouldn't bow to them. You know what I'm saying? He wouldn't turn around, he wouldn't kowtow to these people because they felt like that they should have been the ones that should have been honored. You know, when they turned around and they seen the Mashiach, they looked at him as, who does he think he is? That's how Haman looked at Mordecai. Who do you think you are? That's how he looked at him. Well, we had to turn around and look at, that's why I was telling y'all about the Imam Mahdi or how the Muslims and how them people operate. They're going to turn around and look at you and they're going to look at you like, who do you think you are? When you begin to serve Yah and walk in his way, people think automatically, they begin to think like you think you better than them. But when in actuality it's Yah who esteems you and honors you, and he sets you up above them. And this is what causes people to be angry. And this is what causes people to want to kill you. See, John 15 and 17. Verse 18, actually. He says, if the world hates you, you know that it hated me before it hated you. If you were of the world would love his own. But because you are not of the world, but I have chosen you out of the world, therefore the world hates you. Remember, he said in the world you'll have tribulation, right? Well, you sit back and look at it. Mordecai was not of the world, therefore they hated him. Daniel was not of the world, therefore they hated him. You understand what I'm saying? They hated him. He said, I chose you out of the world. When you look at all the people he chose to lead the people out, as the man who the king delighted to honor, it was Mordecai who he chose. When you look at the man who Nebuchadnezzar set to be king and president over all the realm of Babylon, it was Daniel that he chose. You understand what I'm saying? It was Daniel that he chose. And they hated him for it. Because he said if you were of the world, then the world would love you. See, Haman didn't love him. Because Mordecai wasn't of the world. Those men who conspired on Daniel, they didn't love him because I'm not like you. See, because of the way that they lived, they offered peace offerings to Yah. Because their faith and their trust was in Yah and they served him. Come back to Leviticus chapter 3. Oh, she's out of there, buddy. So when we finish Leviticus chapter 3, right? Matter of fact, I forgot that 2 Corinthians chapter 2, about verse 15. 2 Corinthians chapter 2, and about verse 15. But make it 12. He say, furthermore, when I came to Troas to preach of Mashiach's gospel, and the door was opened unto me of the master, I had no rest in my spirit, because I found not Titus my brother. But taking my leave of them, I went from thence into Macedonia. Now thanks be unto Elohim, which always calls us to triumph in the Mashiach, and make manifest the savor of his knowledge by us in every place. You just sat back and seen that there with Daniel, and we're going to come back and finish with Daniel. But you seen that with Mordecai. He calls him to triumph, didn't he? In every place. In every place. You have to realize that a Mashiach has gotten the victory and that you can do all things through him and that you can triumph in every place if you lean upon him and do the things that's required and necessary. In every aspect and avenue of your life, no matter what it is, a Mashiach can cause you to triumph. I don't wouldn't matter if it's doing business. That man say, I've given you the power to get wealth. So if you walk before Yah in spirit and in truth in the faith of a Mashiach and then do the things on your end, what you're supposed to do, this man can cause you to triumph. You know what I'm saying? If people are persecuting you and coming at you wrong, if you lean on him and put your trust in he who judges righteously, he will cause you to triumph. When you turn around and look at, we got the victory in the Mashiach that calls us to triumph. We can go right back and look at when we came up out of Mizraim, out of Egypt. Through a Mashiach, he caused us to triumph over these people. Do you know what I'm saying? And we ended up becoming a savor to him by coming unto him. This is when we turn around and we look at things, and then you see the same thing. What carefulness did they have? What zeal? What desire? What vengeance? All these things to where when we came up out of Mizraim, we were without charge on that. Just like what Paul mentioned in 2 Corinthians chapter 7. And as you can see, we pulling out the concept of where he getting this stuff from. And then we can begin to see something because of the godly sorrow, because these people were mourning because of the bondage and the suffering and the oppression and the killing and the beating and the disrespect that they received at these people's hands. And then you turn around and you look at the kingdom of the Medes and the Persians, and the same thing is being reiterated and done again. Being beaten, being oppressed, being killed, being disrespected. And in the end, we were called to triumph. Not taking away from the law, because the law is righteous and spiritual indeed. But it was their faith and their trust and they sorrow, the crying. Remember in Exodus chapter 2, he said they groaned to him. And when he heard them groan, he had respect unto them. You understand what I'm saying? He had respect unto them. The same way when a Mashiach was on the tree and he groaned, he had respect unto them. See, matter of fact, Romans chapter 8, about verse 21, I say. You know, it's something like this here, man. Matter of fact, it's something you said in the car, Link. You know what? When he was talking about like this here, when he said you were dying laughing, when he said you might as well clock in 4 times. You know what I'm saying? But it's something that he said, and I feel the same way about myself. He know this because he know me. You know what I'm saying? But he was like, boy, I got confidence in myself. I know what I can do. Each and every last one of y'all sitting here, those of y'all that can hear me, anybody who watching, you supposed to have confidence in yourself that you can believe that whatever it is that you seek to accomplish, that you can do that. If you don't have confidence in yourself that you can do it, nobody else will have confidence in you that you can do it either. You know what I'm saying? Even if it's somebody who's trying to instill the confidence in you that you can do it. If they see that you don't have the confidence that you could do it, it will begin to wane where they will not have confidence in you because obviously you don't believe in yourself. You know what I'm saying? It don't matter what it is you doing. And I ain't gonna tell you something, man, and that stuff will come in and it can creep in your mind at any time. You know, Lil Muffin can tell you, it's been plenty of times since, especially when I first started doing this, that I'm like, boy, I don't know if I really could do this. You know what I'm saying? Like, I ain't never did nothing like this before. You know, why would he look at me to think, okay, you could do this? And then I would see things in other places confirming like, boy, you got to understand and know where you getting this information from. You're not coming up with this on your own. You know what I'm saying? You're not sitting around watching this and picking this and pulling that and then regurgitating it. But see, sometimes no matter who you is, doubt can creep into your mind about if you can do something. And you have to be able to knock that stuff down. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, see, you go look at Romans 14:23. It say anything that is not of faith is sin. You understand what I'm telling you? Anything that is not of faith is sin. See, when we turn around and we look at our ancestors that were in the wilderness, see, Deuteronomy 32:20 states how these were children in whom there was no faith. So that was their sin because they didn't believe. You understand what I'm telling you? When you sit back and you look at Saul, his sin was not just on the fact of you didn't do what I told you to go do, but you didn't believe me. Because if you would have believed me, you would have destroyed the Amalekites utterly and left nothing. You know what I'm saying? So we have to sit back and look at no matter what situation we doing. If you're obeying and you believe in Yah, would you not believe he would give you rest? Would you not believe that he would provide? No matter, it could get ugly now, because he said in the world you have tribulation. And tribulation don't necessarily mean money. You know what I'm saying? Or none of that, man. It could be all type of, it could be anything. It could be anything. You know what I'm saying? But you're going to have to be able to endure. Cause I know one of the brothers told me about a situation he been in, boy, that's a hard thing to deal with. That's real life tribulation right there. They got to get their peace from Yah, from the tribulation that they endure through that. So that's hard for any man and woman to take. You know what I'm saying? And you have to sit back and look at that people whose faith and is small and not strong, that when they turn around and they endure and type of things in life arise, no matter what it may be, they could turn back. They could turn back, not realizing in the Mashiach you can triumph. You know what I'm saying? We have to sit back and believe that no matter what it is, you know, we've been talking about certain stuff, you know, talking to T about certain stuff, talking to you about some of this stuff, talking to you about it, him about it, Corey about it. You know what I'm saying? Looking to sit back, stuff like, boy, if we put our minds to do it and then do what's necessary to push it, it can be done. It can be done because, one, first and foremost, we believe in our God, but then we got to believe in ourselves that we can actually do this. Because if we don't, who will? Do you know what I'm saying? If you don't believe in yourself, who will? If you don't believe in the Mashiach, how could you be able to triumph? He gives this, like the man said right here. I missed my page. Let me reread it. Let me reread it. He said, for we are, he said, now thanks be to Elohim, which always calls us to triumph in the Mashiach, to make manifest the savor of his knowledge by us in every place. You know what I'm saying? Now, when he say make that savor of the knowledge of us in any place, you turn around and you seen that how it said Mordecai fame spread out all abroad, no matter where he went. Everybody heard of him because he made him to triumph, and his fame spread out. See, just like the man say, you know, meat is for those who are full age. We should be able to pull things up out of this stuff and be able to sit back and be able to get an understanding. Now look at Romans chapter 8 and 21. And see, because the creature itself also shall be delivered from the bondage of corruption into the glorious freedom of the children of Elohim. For we know that the whole creation groan and travail in pain together until now. And not only they, but ourselves also, which have the first fruits of the Ruach, even we ourselves groan within ourselves, waiting for the adoption, to wit, the redemption of our body. For we are saved by hope, but hope that is seen is not hope. For what a man see, why doth he yet hope for? But if we hope for that we see not, then we do with patience wait for it. Likewise, the Spirit also help our infirmities, for we know not what we should pray for as we ought. But the Spirit itself make intercession for us, which groanings which cannot be uttered. And he that search the hearts know what is the mind of the Ruach, because he make intercession for the Kodeshim according to the will of Elohim. And we know that all things work together for the good to them that love Elohim, and to them who are called according to his purpose. You sit back and you look at it. Mordecai was called for the particular purpose. You understand, Esther was his niece. But he looked at her as his daughter because her parents died. And then Esther ended up, because Vashti wanted to be a stubborn woman and not come to her husband when she was called, right? Because she didn't want to do that. This allowed Esther to come in and take the throne in her place. Because Mordecai was called for this specific purpose, because he would have the right hand of the king's ear to be able to influence, because he was taken with Esther's beauty. He loved her so much, he thought she was so beautiful. Then you know she a Yahudim, so you know she was humble. You know she was virtuous. You know she submitted herself to her husband. You know she loved him and treated him accordingly as the word state. Because she knew she was a Yahudim. You sat back and seen where this woman say, hey, well, tell him fast for 3 days and 3 nights. And she say, if I die, then so be it. Just like a Mashiach say, if I got to die, then so be it. You know what I'm saying? And we have to sit back and look at, yea, we are counted as lambs for the slaughter. If I die, then so be it. See, we're going to get Revelation 12 and 11 in a moment for that same said cause. But you see how he said that the Spirit make intercession for, he searcheth the heart. Because though they're called according to the purpose of Elohim, everything worked out to their good. Everything worked out to the good of Mordecai because he was called to Yah's purpose. Everything worked out to the good for Daniel because he was called to Yah's purpose. He was delivered from that den. He couldn't see himself being delivered from that den, but he had hope that he would, because if he was hope, then it ain't hope if you can see it. But if you can't see it, then you'll have patience, you'll wait for it. He had patience enough to believe that Yah would deliver. And even if he didn't deliver, let Yah's will be accomplished. You know why he was able to do that? Because he had peace. Because he had already been offering himself as a peace offering. Because he was blameless and without fault before the king. Because he served Yahuwah in righteousness and truth. That's why he wasn't fearful of praying and opening his windows to Jerusalem and praying 3 times a day. So I'm telling you this stuff that when the rubber hit the road and things hit the fan, that you would have no fear in serving Yahuwah in the face of all adversity, knowing things work out to the good to those that are called according to his purpose. We already know Hamashiach was called according to his purpose. All things worked out to his good. He was risen from the dead and sat at the right hand of Elohim, declared to be the son of Yah forever, and inherited a kingdom and a dominion and rulership, that every knee would bow and every tongue to confess that Yahushua HaMashiach is master to the esteem of the Father. You know what I'm talking about? Now, we're going to get Revelation 2 and 9, 3 and 9, I should say, to go along with it. But, what I just mentioned, I just said something for that. It escaped my mind. But let's look at Revelation 3 and 9. Don't everybody got to come and bow down and worship before Mashiach? Don't you realize that he say if you suffer with him, you'll be joint heirs? And if joint heirs, then you're going to rule with it in his throne. Look what he said he going to have these people come do. He said, behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Yahudim and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them come to worship before thy feet and to know that I have loved thee. Well, it said the Father loved the Son. See, look at John chapter 4. It said the Father loved the Son. So if the Son turned around and loved you, the same thing that was given to him, it'd be given to you. That's why he said in the world you have tribulation, but in me you have peace. So it's John chapter 3. John chapter 3 and about verse 32. He says, and what he hath seen and heard, he testified, and no man received his testimony. He that hath received his testimony hath set his seal that Elohim is true. For he whom Elohim hath sent speak the words of Elohim. For Elohim give not the Spirit by measure unto him. The Father loved the Son, and hath given all things into his hand. And he's sitting around, turning around and telling you, I'm going to call these people to bow down and worship you, that you might know that I love thee. Because the Father loved the Son and gave all things into my hand. And he said, he that loved me, keep my commandments, and I manifest myself to him. So all things the Father done gave into my hand, I'm going to put it in yours. You know what I'm talking about? See, that's that sitting back and you looking at that all the tribulation and the suffering would be worth it. Revelation 12 and 11. That's what I want. I want to praise y'all for that. Because we're looking back how Esther said, if I die, I die. That's what she said, right? It said they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. And they loved not their lives unto the death. You know what I'm talking about? See, they overcame him by the blood of that peace offering. Remember he said, be of good cheer. I've overcome the world. He said they overcame him by the word of their testimony. They loved not their lives by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony. They loved not their lives unto the death. They overcame him by the peace offering. By the peace offering. So you can't kill something that's ready to die. You know what I'm saying? See, even in the 5th chapter of the book of Revelation, you know, he made a statement of, they said he saw the men up under the altar whose heads had been beheaded for the witness of a Mashiach. They say, how long it is before you avenge our blood upon the earth? He said, man, he gave him white robes and told him, man, take your rest for a season. because all your other brethren and fellow servants like you are have to be killed for all things to be accomplished. He told them to take their rest. See, look at Revelation 19, matter of fact, since I say that. I'm sorry, is it Revelation 19 or is it 14? 14 and 12. Revelation 14 and 12. Here is the patience of the Kodeshim. Here are they that keep the commandments of Elohim and the faith of Yahusha. And I heard a voice from Shamahim saying unto me, Blessed are the dead which die in a Mashiach from henceforth, yea, saith the Ruach, that they may rest from their labors, and their works do follow them.
Oh, stop it.
When we look at the labors of the prophets and we look at the labors of the Mashiach, they suffered for the word's sake. You know what I'm saying? Jeremiah chapter 20. Make sure that's what I want. Jeremiah chapter 20. About verse 7. It says, O Yahuwah, thou hast deceived me, and I was deceived. Thou art stronger than I, and hast prevailed. I am a derision daily. Everyone mock me. You know what that is, a derision? That's to be ridiculed. You know what I'm saying? We turn around and we look at a Mashiach being ridiculed on the cross. We turn around and sit back and then people say, if you be the son of Elohim, do this. Asking him all these questions. He say, you are stronger than me. You know what I'm saying? Because he's turning around and you seeing the difference. Who was greater? The father or the son? The father had to show him because the son had to learn obedience by the things that he suffered to show. That's why he say in John chapter 14, he say, the father is greater than me. See, matter of fact, let's look at that so you can see that. He said, you stronger than I. 14 and 28. That's the same thing we looked at yesterday when we didn't talk about it in detail. That's what Pharaoh told Joseph. Only in throne and power am I greater than you. You know what I'm saying? You're stronger than I. Even when you turn around and you look at it, he say, oh, you have deceived me. You know what I'm saying? Joseph sitting back having that vision of his brethren giving obeisance to him. But when you turn around and you look at what he experienced and what he went through, it would have been as if Yah deceived him. You know what I'm talking about? But at the end, Yah did exactly what he showed him. He did exactly what he showed him. And all things worked out to his good because he was called according to that purpose. It says, and ye have heard how I said unto you. Matter of fact, look at verse 27. Peace I leave you with. My peace I give unto you. Not as the world give I unto you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. The reason why we're going to look at that there, when we look at Mordecai, his heart wasn't troubled. He wasn't afraid. He turned to his power. When we look at Daniel, he wasn't afraid. He turned to his power. When we look at Elisha, he wasn't afraid. He turned to his power. He turned to where his help come from. My help coming from on high. He said, you have heard how I said unto you, I go away and come again unto you. If you love me, you will rejoice. Because I said, I go unto my Father, unto the Father. For my Father is greater than I. He's stronger than me. Come on back to Jeremiah chapter 20. Listen what he said. For since I spake, I cried out. I cried violence and spoil, because the word of Yahuwah was made a reproach unto me and a derision daily. He said, when I spoke, I cried out, and I became a reproach, and I began to suffer, all because I spoke the words of Yah. That's the only reason. That's what he said, right? For since I spake, I cried out. I cried violence and spoil. Well, let's sit back and look at what he talking about violence and spoil in Luke 21 and 25. He cried out violence and spoil. That's going to be a little difficult to do. Seeing that the page is not there. I don't know where it went. Give me a moment. About 24. I still got 1 Thessalonians 5 and 8 to deal with. It says, and they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the time of the Gentile be fulfilled. Matter of fact, back it up to 21. Matter of fact, make it 20. He said, when you shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, or let them which are the midst of it depart. Let not them that are into the countries enter therein too. For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written might be fulfilled. But woe unto them that give suck in those days. But woe unto them that with a child and that give suck in those days, for there be so great distress in the land, and wrath upon the people. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and be led away captive into all nations, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. He's crying out spoil and violence, right? He also told them the temple was going to be destroyed. You know, they wanted to kill him for that. They wanted to kill him for that. They say this man say he can destroy the tabernacle. They wanted to kill him for that. You know, they wanted to kill Jeremiah for that same reason when he told them that. Ain't he talking about crying out violence and spoil right here? Come on back to Jeremiah chapter 20 then. We look at verse 9. He say, then said I will not make mention of him, nor speak any more in his name. But his word was in my heart as a burning fire, shut up in my bones. I was weary with forbearing, and I could not stay. Listen what he said. For I heard the defaming of many, fear on every side. Report, they say, and we will report it. All my familiars watch for my halting, saying, peradventure he will be enticed, and we shall prevail against him, and we shall take our revenge on him. What does that sound like to y'all? What situation this sound like to y'all? He says, all my familiar, say, I won't make mention of his name. He said, but I could, or nor speak any more in his name, but his word was in my heart as a burning fire. I couldn't keep my mouth closed. He said, I heard defaming, which means they slandering them on every side. They say, report, say they, and we will report it. Say, my familiars watch for my halting, saying he gonna be enticed and we gonna prevail and be able to take our revenge. What does that sound like to y'all? What situation does this sound like to y'all? Well, let's look at Matthew chapter 26. See, in the end, he overcame him, and he loved not his life unto the death. That's why he say through much tribulation, you'll enter into the kingdom. You got to be able to overcome them and love not your own life to the death. You know, a lot of time people get in situations and they don't want to lay their life down. Dying is not what they want to do, whether it's spiritually or naturally. Dang, I did it too fast. Call drop, did it too fast. Hold on one second, y'all. Did it too fast. So that's what a lot of people don't want to do. They don't want to lay their life down. They don't want to die. When we look at Matthew the 26th chapter. And we look at the 57th verse. They that lay hold on Yahushua, had laid hold on Yahushua, led him away to Caiaphas the high priest, where the scribes and the elders were assembled. But Peter followed him afar off unto the high priest's palace, and went in and sat with the servants to see the end. Now the chief priests and elders and all the council saw false witness against Yahushua to put him to death. but found none. Yea, though many false witnesses came, yet found they none. At the last came 2 witnesses, and said, this fellow said, I'm able to destroy the temple of Elohim and build it in 3 days. The high priest arose and said unto him, answer thou nothing? What is it which these witness against thee? But Yahushua held his peace. I'm not going to speak anymore in his name, nor make mention of it. And the high priest answered and said unto him, I adjure thee by the living Elohim, that thou tell us whether thou be the Mashiach, the son of Elohim. But his word was in my heart, as a burning fire, set my bones on fire, and I was weary with forbearing. Yahushua said unto them, thou hast said, nevertheless I say unto you, hereafter you shall see the Son of Man sitting on the right hand of power, coming in the clouds of Shamahim. Then the high priest rent his clothes, saying, he hath spoken blasphemy. What further need have we of witnesses? Behold, now you have heard his blasphemy. What think ye? They answered and said, he is guilty of death. Because my familiar sat back and say, wait, he will be enticed. Then we will have our revenge on him. You know what, I'm telling y'all this to say this here, because some of y'all get in situations, y'all be in situations with people, and they are enticing you to be able to have a reason to say something against you. And you'll turn around and you'll give them the reason because you just can't seem to hold your mouth together. Don't even have enough wisdom to even peep, sit back and peep and understand what people are actually trying to do to you. You know what I'm saying? They're trying to have an opportunity to where they can give an evil report against you. You can't give them the opportunity to have that evil report against you, because that's what they seek to do and desire to do. You got to have the wisdom to know this. Now, this man was sitting back saying he was weary from speaking the word. Say he wasn't going to do it no more. You see Hamashiach doing the same thing. I ain't going to make mention of his name. But he said it was burnt up in my heart like a burning fire. I had to speak it.
Listen.
You know, a lot of brothers quote that verse, man, but it don't be really the same thing when they come to the word. They don't really have that strong feeling and desire in their heart that they would do that. But he turned around and the Hamashiach sit back and look at, I got peace in him who I trust in. Even in this tribulation, I know that I will overcome them and I will prevail over them. Because in him I have peace. We have to be able to look at that and understand that and know that. We'll go swing back over here to Leviticus chapter 3. Let me finish it out. Leviticus chapter 3, verse 7. He said, if he offer a lamb for his offering, then he shall offer it before Yahuwah. And he shall lay his hand upon the head of his offering and kill it before the tabernacle of the congregation. And Aaron his son shall sprinkle the blood thereof round about upon the altar. The reason why we can look at it as Mashiach being the herd and the lamb, because you know he was the red heifer. And he shall offer the sacrifice of the peace offering made by fire unto Yahuwah, the fat thereof, and the whole rump. He shall take off hard by the backbone, and the fat that cover the inwards, and all the fat that is upon the inwards, and the 2 kidneys and the fat that's upon them, which is by the flanks, the caul above the liver with the kidneys, it shall take away. You see, he say he'll take away, see, the fat thereof and the whole rump. That means the whole body thereof. You know what I mean? No bones being broke. Remember what he said when he was on that tree in 19th chapter of John? Said they went to break his legs, but when they came and seen he was dead already, they didn't do it. All they did is just turn around and just take out his kidneys. Left the whole rump burned in the fire thereof, because he was tried in the furnace of affliction, because the trial of your faith being more precious than gold. You know what I'm saying? Burned in the fire. You know, I told y'all before, when you go through the fire, it's to get out the impurities. It's to get out the imperfections. That's what you're being humbled for. So you can be made perfect. It's a hard, arduous journey, and sometimes it don't seem joyous for the time, but it's for your salvation, though. He's saying the priest shall burn it upon the altar. It is the food of the offering made by fire unto Yahuwah. And if his offering be a goat, then he shall offer it before Yahuwah. And he shall lay his hand upon the head of it, and kill it before the tabernacle of the congregation, and the sons of Aaron shall sprinkle the blood thereof upon the altar round about. And he shall offer thereof his offering, even an offering made under fire unto Yahuwah, the fat that cover the inwards, and all the fat that is upon the inwards, and the 2 kidneys and the fat that is upon them, which is by the flanks, and the caul above the liver, with the kidneys it shall take away. And the priest shall burn them upon the altar. It is a food of the offering made by fire for a sweet savor. All the fat is Yahuwah's. Now, what you think this could mean by all the fat is yours? Why would all the fat be yours? He said he want that for himself. Why would you think he would want that for himself?
It's the best part.
It's the best part.
You get all the juices from.
All the juices, huh? That's where all the sweet savor with a smell come in that, huh? When we look at the word fat in Hebrew, it's kalev, and it's fat of humans. And listen to what he said. Just what he said. The choices, the best part. So now you can sit back and you see why hey, that's what he said, right? He said what he said. He said it's the best part. That's mine. So when we look at Hebrews 1:1, right? Don't you remember when we read in John chapter 14, he say, if you love me, you will rejoice because I go back unto my Father, because the Father took the best part. When you sit back and you look at it with every man, like they say, every generation, he always took the best. The best part was chosen and set aside for Yah. Elohim, who at sundry times and diverse manners, making times pass unto the fathers by the prophets, having these last days spoken unto us by his Son, who have he appointed heir of all things, by whom also he made the worlds, who being the brightness of his glory and the express image of his person, upholding all things by the word of his power, when he had by himself purged our sins and sat down on the right hand of majesty on high, being made so much better than the Malachim, as he by inheritance obtained a more excellent name than they. For unto which of the Malachim said he at any time, thou art my son, this day have I begotten thee, and again I will be to him a father, and he shall be to me a son. So he reserved the best part for him. He say the fat is the best part, that's the choicest part. He say that's mine. See, look at something in John chapter 2 that I mentioned. John chapter 2, probably about verse 10. Woo-hoo. It says, and he saith unto him, every man at the beginning doth set forth good wine, and when have all well drunk, then that which is worse, but thou hast kept the good wine until now. The beginning of the miracles did Yahusha in Cana of Galilee, and manifested his esteem, and his disciples believed on him. Now you notice when he turned water into wine, he said that best part you save for last. He's saying that fat is the choicest part. This is a sweet savor. You know, he say, be followers of Elohim as dear children, even as a Mashiach who offered himself as a sweet smelling savor, because he was the best part. When we sit back and we just read in Hebrews 1:1, he was the best part. He obtained a better inheritance than the Malachim or the messengers or the servants that were up there, because he had a better name than they, because of a better inheritance to them, because he never said at any time that that any of them were his son. He was the best part. He said, that's mine. He was always reserved for me. That's my inheritance. That's mine. You know what I'm talking about? That's why he say, take the fat. He say, that's y'all. Y'all don't get that. You know what I'm saying? That's why he went back. When you sit back and you look at it, right? You burn the fat on the altar, right, as a sweet smelling savor, and it belonged to y'all. And what is he? He's that offering burnt in the fire. And what did he return back to? Right on high to Shamahim to y'all, because he's the best part. He's the best part. He is the best part. Now we got to sit back and look like we need to be a part of the best part. Therefore, when he come to receive, to give up all things back unto the Father, we can be received to him because we are the fat or the best part. You understand what I'm telling you? You want to be the best part. He said that you should shine as lights unto the world, unto a crooked and perverse nation, of whom you shine as lights to the world. You know what I'm saying? That means you have to learn to keep your flesh in subjection. All the stuff that some of y'all hearts be privy to, ain't no way in the world you're going to be the best part sticking to none of that stuff. That's going to be impossible. You're not going to be the fat. You're not going to be that sweet smelling savor. You're not going to be that offering because you ain't been a partaker of that peace offering. You ain't going to let your kidneys be taken out. You ain't going to let the fat be burned. You're not going to follow in the footsteps of him who lived and died for you and loved you enough to do so. So we don't look at these things. We don't consider these things as follow after that same pattern. We know, y'all forbid, ain't nobody going to come with no spear and pull your kidneys out. You know ain't nobody finna come take the fat around your side and burn it. You know what I'm talking about? Say, I'm offering this to y'all. You know ain't nobody gonna do that. But we do know this. Matter of fact, he said that's the choicest part, right? The fat, right? Something that come to my mind. I've been wanting to look at it. Judges chapter 11. Take them hard.
You try to run away now. No, go sit down. Sit down.
Really live. Judges chapter 11, about verse 30. Judges chapter 11, verse 30.
Hey, hush it up. Hush it up. All right. Hush it up.
Now we looking at
I said hush it up.
Jephthah, and his name means he opens. And you know, and we're going to proceed with that, looking at him who opens. Says Jephthah vowed a vow unto Yahuwah and said, if thou wilt deliver the children of Ammon into my hands, then it shall be whatsoever come forth of the doors of my house to meet me, when I return in peace from the children of Ammon, shall surely be Yahuwah's, and I will offer it up for a burnt offering. So Jephthah passed over to the children of Ammon to fight against them, and Yahuwah delivered them into his hands. And he smote them for Aror, even till thou come to Minnith, even 20 cities unto the plain of the vineyards, with a very great slaughter. Thus the children of Ammon were subdued before the children of Yasharal. Jephthah came to Mitzvah unto his house, and behold, his daughter came out to meet him with timbrels and dances. She was his only child. Besides her, he had neither son nor daughter. What's stand out for you when you heard that one?
Only child.
Only child. Who else said something about your only child? Abraham and Isaac, this your only son, and then of course with a Mashiach, the only begotten son. This is my, he said, whoever come out of my house, ain't that what he said? If I return in peace, whatever come forth out of the doors of my house will be an offering to Yah. You got some people that really believe that this man offered his daughter up too. Like really burned her alive. He said, Jephthah, and it came to pass when he saw her that he rent his clothes and said, alas, my daughter, thou hast brought me very low. Thou art one of them that trouble me, for I have opened my mouth unto Yahuwah, I cannot go back. And she said unto him, my father, if thou hast opened thy mouth unto Yahuwah, do according to me that which proceeded out of thy mouth. For as much as Yahuwah have taken vengeance for thee of thy enemies, even the children of Ammon. And she said unto her father, let this thing be done for me. Let me alone 2 months, that I may go up and down the mountains and bewail my virginity, I and my fellows. And he said, go. And he sent her away for 2 months, and she went with her companions and bewailed her virginity upon the mountains. What that sound like to y'all?
She's Harlan.
What that sound like to y'all? Follow me upon the mountains. Let me go bewail my virginity with my companions. This is what he said. Bewail my virginity, I and my fellows. What woman you know call her friends fellows? Any of you women ever called any of your friends a fellow?
I don't even call my friend a fellow.
What you think that could mean? I and my fellow. Let me and my fellows, I and my fellows go upon the mountain and bewail my virginity. What you think that could mean? Any of you brothers got any idea? You know, obviously they say fellows or companions too. You know what I'm saying? That's all fellows mean. Man. Basically fellowship. You know what I'm saying? What y'all think that could mean? Any of y'all got an idea? Anybody going what? Glover, you got something? Let's look at Mark chapter 13. Actually, Mark 14. Verse 26. Mark 14 and 26. And it says, and when they had sung a hymn, they went out into the Mount of Olives. Where did they go? Did she say, let me go up for a mountain? For 2 months, right? And Yahushua said unto them, all ye shall be offended because of me this night. For it is written, I will smite the shepherd and the sheep shall be scattered. But after I am arisen, I will go before you into Galilee. But Peter said unto him, although all shall be offended, yet will not I. And Yahushua said unto them, truly I say unto thee, that this day, even in this night, before the cock crow twice, thou shalt deny me thrice. But he spake the more vehemently, if I should die with thee, I will not deny thee in any wise. Likewise said they all. And they came to a place which was called Jessamine, and he said to his disciples, sit ye here while I shall pray. And he take with him Peter and James and John, and began to be sore amazed and be very heavy. Remember what he said? Stand in awe and sin not. Commune upon your own bed and be still. Ain't that what he said? Offer the sacrifices of righteousness and put your trust in Yahuwah. I don't know where we at right here. And he saith unto them, my soul is exceedingly sorrowful, even unto death. Tarry ye here and watch. And he went forward a little and fell on the ground and prayed that if it were possible, the hour might pass from him. And he said, Abba, Father, all things are possible unto thee. Take away this cup from me. Nevertheless, not that I will, but with thy will. And he come and find them sleeping, and saith unto Peter, Simon, sleep thou? Could not thou watch 1 hour? Watch and pray, lest ye enter into temptation. The spirit truly is ready, but the flesh is weak. And again he went and prayed and spake the same words. And when he returned, he found them asleep again, for the eyes were heavy. Neither wist they what to answer him. And he come the 3rd time and saith unto them, sleep on and take your rest. The hour is come. Behold, the Son of Man is betrayed into the hand of sinners. Rise, let us go. He that betrayed me is at hand. Now, if he's bewailing his virginity, you know what it'd be a virgin would be in this situation, right? What would a virgin be in this situation? Virtuous, or what other thing? What's the other thing we done looked at in the past as it pertains to virginity?
Pure.
And what thing did we look at with a Mashiach when it pertained to his virginity?
Sinless.
And what did he leave behind to prove that?
The blood.
Remember that they're the tokens of your virginity?
The cloth.
The cloth. So don't you realize when they went up into that Mount of Olives and he was exceedingly sorrowful, even unto death, is he not bewailing his virginity with his companions? With his fellows? Is he not doing that? When he had already prayed in the 17th chapter of John, that make them perfect and one as we are. These are my fellows, my companions. He said, you were with me in all my temptations, you my companions. Yeah. Is he not just went up on the mountain and bewailed his virginity? Huh? Don't you think that's what he just did? Come on back to Judges chapter 11. Ain't that something? And these dudes thinking this really dealing with no, human sacrifice. With human sacrifice. With human sacrifice. Verse 37. And he said unto her father, let this thing be done for me. Let me alone 2 months, that I may go up and down the mountains and bewail my virginity, I and my fellows. And he said, go. And he sent her away for 2 months, and she went with her companions and bewailed her virginity upon the mountains. And it came to pass at the end of 2 months that she returned unto her father, who did with her according to his vow which he had vowed, and she knew no man. And it was custom in Yasharal that the daughters of Yasharal went yearly to lament the daughter of Jephthah the Gildite 4 days in a year. Lament means to mourn, right? They said they went and did this yearly. That means annually. It also said that she knew no man, and it was a custom in Yasharal. So if she knew no man, that means she wasn't what? So let's look at something about 1 Corinthians chapter 7 when they go to this. And then y'all should know, if he said they came up yearly to keep this custom, what you think that is? That Passover right there, ain't it? Because you would be drinking that wine and eating that bread as a that burnt offering that he became, right? Taking on his sufferings, showing forth the death of a Mashiach till he come. That even in tribulation you will have peace. Because even with what he was going through, you sit back and look at it, he had peace. Even what with Jephthah's daughter, she said, let me mourn my virginity for 2 months, and then I'll come back and do what you as you have said. And he did all that he vowed. He offered her as a burnt offering. Or she would have to afflict herself. She would have to deny herself the pleasures of the flesh. It said she knew no man. I mean, if she knew no man, she didn't have sex. If she didn't have sex, that doesn't mean her father offered her up self-sacrifice. Her affliction war, she had to live from Yah from here on out. A burnt offering, the furnace of affliction. The trial of your faith is more precious than gold. You know what I'm saying? Her faith would try. Your father's offered you up. She say, hey man, do what Yah said. He done delivered his enemies, your enemies into your hand. Do all that he done performed. Do all that you said that you would do. Well, Mashiach had already said, it's in my heart to do thy will. He say, lo, I come in the volume of the book. It's written of me to do thy will, O Elohim. Thy law is within my heart. Do what you have said you have spoken. That's why he say, not my will be done, but thy will be done. You gonna offer me up? This is trouble. He said, just give me time to go mourn my virginity with my companions. Because in the world you'll have trouble, but in me you'll have peace. That woman was trouble, but she said, just give me time to mourn. After she had to mourn, she had peace. Ain't that something you see the same thing we looked at Psalm chapter 4, stand in awe and sin not. He said, he was amazed. He communed with his heart upon his own bed. He's sitting up there making supplications to Yah. He communed with his heart. Not my will be done, but thy will be done. Let me not sin. Let me sin not. She knew no man. He knew no sin. He that knew no sin is able to reconcile us back to Elohim and be able by his blood that we might have peace. All these things tie in together. All these things go in together. All these things are showing us the peace that surpasses all understanding in Yahushua HaMashiach. All we have to do is stand in awe and sin not. That's all we got to do. Stand in awe and sin not. Commune with your own heart upon your own bed. Offer the sacrifices of righteousness and trust in Yah. Trusting in Yah be like, I'm not going to sleep with that woman. I ain't going to tell that lie. I'm not going to cuss this person out. I'm not going to take that. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. You understand what I'm telling you? And you know where that come in at? That's humility. You know how many of you women, your dad would have came and told you, he offered you up to Yah, you can't know no man. Y'all, most of y'all would have buck. I bet I'll get out of here, get me a husband, get me some dang-a-lang. You tell me I ain't finna get none. I'm trying to get me some sweet love. Dang-a-lang. I'm trying to get me some sweet love. You know what I'm saying? I'm for real. But while I'm putting it that way for you to sit back and understand the humility that this woman showed and her faith and her trust in Yah in which she showed. That her dad, she's sitting back saying, well, Pops, if you done made this vow to do this because for Yah to deliver your enemies into your hands, then offer me up then. Which you can sit back and see that this is correlating with a Mashiach because the last enemy to be destroyed is death. You know what I'm talking about? So that means if you got you one.
Oh, listen. Tuck it room.
You know what I'm saying? He be all right. Where he at?
Fire the home.
Oh, he in that bag. You know, just a little critter. He want to come be friends with you, Miles. E, not 2 E's,
Hey,
1 E.
I ain't think Troy was coming in there.
Oh man, you threw him under the bus when he wasn't present. I'm gonna tell him about that when I see him. You know what I'm saying? But
You'll help me, you have it.
you know, but think about that though. Do you see the faith and the trust that she had? That's the same faith and trust that Mashiach had. If you deliver my enemies into my hands, offer him up. That's what we got to look at. That's what we got to understand. That's what we got to see. That's what we got to realize. That you got to have the same heart that Jephthah's daughter had. Got to have that same mind. Got to have that same heart. That same desire. You understand what I'm saying? That woman say, just give me some time to mourn my pureness. Then after that, do what you got to do. Not then give me some time to go get loose. Just give me some time to mourn my virginity, my pureness. That's all Hamashiach was up there mourning for, because I was pure. I was without blemish. I'm a peace offering. You turn around and you sit back and look at, that's what Jephthah was offering with that burnt offering. This is a peace offering. Because you have offered up my enemies to give me rest, I got to be able to offer up something unto you to so forth that same peace which you have allowed unto me. And what it allowed up to be my only child. That's why Elohim so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that we should not perish but have life through him. See, you sit back and look at is that Jephthah so loved Yasharal, he was willing to give up his only child. I ain't got no other son. I ain't got no other daughter. All I got is this child. I'm willing to offer up for a sweet smelling savor. You know what I'm saying? You got to sit back and look at, boy, I got to follow that same pattern of behavior. Because she being afflicted too. Remember it say, look upon the former days, those who've been a gazing stock and a reproach, and the afflictions that suffer, knowing that you be a companion with them. You understand what I'm telling you? See, brother go in these epistle letters and try to look at all this stuff, to swing it, to fit the stuff that they trying to get out of doing and this, that, there, and the third, when at the end of the day, it all meet back up with the same thing that was already written aforetime. You know what I'm saying? We got to be, that's why I'm zeroing in on this. You got to be a companion with her. You got to be a companion with Mordecai. You got to be a companion with Daniel. You got to be a companion with Mashiach. Don't you realize you don't see that his apostles was with him? That they would be companions in them same afflictions. And she say, let me and my companions bewail my virginity upon the mountains for 2 months. You know, thank y'all for the word. 1 Corinthians chapter 7. Let me sit back and look at what we want about here. Chapter 7, verse 28. He say, but if and thou marry, thou hast not sinned. If a virgin marry, she have not sinned. Nevertheless, matter of fact, look at about verse 25. He say, now concerning virgins, I have no commandment of a Mashiach, yet I give my judgment as one that have obtained mercy of a Mashiach to be faithful. I suppose, therefore, that it is good for the present distress, that I say that it is good for a man so to be. Art thou bound unto a wife? Seek not to be loosed. Art thou loosed from a wife? Seek not a wife. But, and if thou marry, thou hast not sinned. If a virgin marry, she have not sinned. Nevertheless, such shall have trouble in the flesh, but I spare you. You sit back and look at, he say he obtained something, we look at virgins, that a virgin would remain faithful. See, we look at verse 34. There's a difference between a wife and a virgin. The unmarried woman care for the things of a Mashiach, that she may be both Kadesh in both body and spirit. But she that is married care for the things of the world and how she may please her husband. When you turn around and you look at Jephthah's daughter, she looked at the things of a Mashiach, the things of Yahuwah, how she could be set apart in body and spirit. That was more important to her. When you turn around and you look at a Mashiach on the mountain, bewailing his virginity, it was more important for him to be set apart in body and in spirit. See, he didn't have no care for the things of the world. Even though in the world he had tribulation, In Yah, he had peace because he had set himself apart in body and spirit. We have to turn around and look at the same thing because that's what we see Jephthah's daughter doing. She's being set apart in body and spirit. You know what I'm saying? You have to follow that same pattern. Got to follow that same pattern. If we don't follow that same pattern, what is it going to end up being? See, come back and look at 2 Peter chapter 1 as we wind this on down. We look at 2 Peter chapter 1 and we look at verse 4. Matter of fact, make it 3. We just looked at this the other day. We're going to look at it again. According as his divine power have given unto us all things that pertain unto life and godliness through the knowledge of him that have called us to esteem and virtue, whereby are given unto us exceeding great and precious promises, that by these you might be partakers of the divine nature, having escaped the corruption that is in the world through lust. And besides this, giving all diligence, add to your faith virtue, and to virtue knowledge. You know, virtue, virtuous, virginity, cleanliness, pureness. You know what I'm saying? He said, make sure that you've had your hearts washed with pure heart, have the pure assurance of your faith, having your hearts washed with pure water. You know what I'm saying? See, when we sit back and we look at this, if we become one with a Mashiach and we're made new creatures, then guess what we will be made? We will, for intents and purposes, be made virgins, so to speak. Because we would be pure, we would have no sin. You know what I'm saying? Because we would be a new creature. And we would be do just like what Jephthah said with the difference between a married woman and a virgin. A married woman a virgin seeks to set herself apart in body and spirit. Now, this is not telling you that y'all can't seek to be married or not to be married. That's not what that's talking about. It's not what he's referring to. What we're referring to at this time is that you as an individual has to be as a woman who is unmarried, who served Yahuwah, who is a virgin, how she would be. Pure in body and in spirit. You understand what I'm telling you? See, you know, Paul told us in 1 Corinthians chapter 6 about he that is joined to a Mashiach is one spirit. Therefore, he says, serve him. 1 Corinthians chapter 6. That's why he say, come out from among them and be ye separate and touch not the unclean thing. I will receive you. He said, I will receive you. Right here in about verse 15. Know ye not that your bodies are the members of a Mashiach? Shall I then take the members of a Mashiach and make them the members of a harlot? Elohim forbid. What? Know ye not that he which is joined to a harlot is one body? For two, saith he, shall be one flesh. But he that is joined unto a Mashiach is one spirit. Flee fornication. Every sin that a man do is without the body. He that commit fornication sin against his own body. What? Know ye not that your body is the temple of the Ruach HaKodesh which is in you, which you have of Elohim, and ye are not your own? For you are bought with the price. Just like Jephthah's daughter was bought with a price, the vow that came out of his mouth. Therefore glorify Elohim in your body and in your spirit, which are Elohim. And that's what his daughter turned around and did. She bewailed. That's the same thing Hamashiach turned around and did. He esteemed the Father in his body and his spirit because he knew he was not his own. You have to realize you are not your own. Your body does not belong to you. You are a purchased possession. And in order to be just like how he said, the fat is mine, the best part. The thing that came up out of Jephthah's house was the best part. Therefore, it ended up becoming yours. When you sit back and you look at Hannah, Samuel was her firstborn son. She offered him up to Yah because he was the best part. When you turn around, you look at Samson. He was a Nazarite from the womb. He belonged to Yah. Why? Because he was the best part. You know what I'm saying? He was the best part. We'll read Hebrews 10 and 34 one more time and stop it right there. Just read that 33 one more time. I'll read verse 34 along with it. No, we'll just read 32 and stop at 33. But call to remembrance the former days in which after ye were illuminated, you endured a great fight of afflictions. Partly which while you were made a gazing stock both of reproaches and afflictions, and partly whistly you became companions of them that were so used. Praise ye Yah for Yahushua HaMashiach in the word. Y'all understood this stuff this evening? All right then.